Good morning, everyone. I call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 121 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Public Accounts.
Format pursuant to the standing orders. Members are attending in person, in the room, and remotely using the Zoom application. Avant de commencer, j'aimerais rappeler à tous les députés et aux...
Before we start, I'd like to remind all members and other participants in the meeting of the preventative measures as follows.
To prevent disruptive and potentially harmful audio feedback incidents that can cause injuries, all in-person participants are reminded to keep their earpieces away from all microphones at all times. The following measures have been taken to help prevent audio feedback incidents. The new earpieces are black in color. Please only use these earpieces, not the older gray ones. By default, all unused earpieces will be unplugged at the start of the meeting on your desk. When you're not using your earpiece, please place it face down on the middle of the sticker for this purpose that you will find on the table, typically to your right as indicated. And please consult the cards on your table for guidelines to prevent audio feedback incidents. As you can see, the room layout has been adjusted to increase the distance between microphones and reduce the chance of feedback from an ambient earpiece. These measures are in place so we can conduct our business without interruption and to protect the health and safety of all participants, in particular our interpreters. Merci à tous pour votre coopération.
Thank you to everyone for your cooperation.
The address to the Chair. Conformément à l'article 108.3G du règlement, le comité reprend.
Pursuant to Standing Order 1083G, the committee shall resume its study of Report 1, Arrive Can, referred to committee Monday, 12th February 2024.
From the Canadian Border Services Agency, Aaron O'Gorman, President. Nice to have you back. And Chaluka Alaperuma, Director from the same agency. You have 5 minutes for your opening remarks, and then we'll turn to our round of questions. Over to you.
Good morning. At my appearance here on February 13th, I spoke about the findings of the Auditor General's report and the procurement ombuds and how they're informing the actions I had taken to improve procurement processes and financial controls at the Canada Border Services Agency. Comme je l'ai mentionné,
as I mentioned, I have dedicated teams to renew and strengthen financial controls and project oversight. New governance is in place to oversee approvals of all contracts over $40,000.
We've reduced our consulting footprint. At the start of the fiscal year, we had 25 fewer consultants than at the same time last year, and today we have 68 fewer consultants working in the CBSA in the IT branches than we did when I was here in February. We're undertaking this reduction carefully and with purpose, making sure that we transfer knowledge and skills to our internal teams as we go. Nous devons toutefois continuer à compter.
We do need to continue to rely on outside experience, in addition to the CBSA's processes to validate the qualifications of contract resources. Individuals working with CBSA on contract must also attest to their credentials and expertise to support ongoing assessments taxpayers are getting value for money.
We will also be requiring vendors with active IT service contracts to certify that none of the resources they provide to CBSA is actively employed as public servants who have not disclosed this information. Should it be discovered that this is not the case after they have certified, we will terminate the resource and likely the contract. All CBSA employees will have to validate their conflict of interest declarations and will renew these declarations on a recurring basis. In addition, all employees involved in procurement will be required to certify that they do not have conflicts of interest, real, apparent, or perceived, relating to individual procurements at the outset of each process. La réalité est que nous ne...
It is a reality that we cannot have documentation for every scenario. That's why I am in a world of trusting but verifying. But I want to be clear. My working assumption is that as public servants, we abide by the rules of our workplace, which is why our code of conduct is so important.
On May 6th, the CBSA published a refreshed code of conduct for employees at the CBSA. It's been updated to reflect current scenarios, more inclusive language so that all employees can see themselves in the code. What hasn't changed are the fundamentals of the code: respect, integrity, stewardship, and the pursuit of excellence. What also continues to guide us is the important mandate the CBSA has to serve and protect Canadians, and the professionalism and dedication with which CBSA employees deliver on this mandate every day across the country and around the world. Merci.
Thank you very much. We'll now begin our first round of questioning. Mr. Barrett, you have the floor for 6 minutes.
Mr. John Osowski is the former president of the CBSA, is that correct? Did CBSA enter into a paid contract with Mr. Osowski surrounding his testimony on ArriveCan?
So, in the federal government, when former public servants are called to testify before commissions of inquiry, in litigation, before the PSLRAB, or perhaps at parliamentary committees, it's not uncommon for them to be brought back on a casual contract to facilitate their access to the information and the support they need to prepare themselves to testify on behalf of the Crown. So I brought him in on a casual contract to facilitate his access to the information that he sought to prepare. That's the convention that I was working under when I made that arrangement. If it turns out that that was not required for him to access the information that he needed, I'll take responsibility for that.
So, Mr. Osowski left the public service and now works for a big consulting firm. Is that right?
I don't know that he still works there, but I do know that he was working with a consulting firm.
Does PricewaterhouseCoopers, the firm that he was working at the time that you brought him on contract to get aligned before he testified at committee, were they doing any business with the CBSA, his firm?
They weren't doing any business. I'm not sure I understand the comment about get aligned. He did ask for access to documents that he had had when he was in the position of president to
We'll circle back to that, ma'am. We'll circle back to that. The question is does PricewaterhouseCoopers have any contracts with the Canada Border Service Agency?
No.
Do they have any contracts with the Government of Canada?
I presume so. I don't know. I know what is happening in the CBSA.
How much was Mr. Osowski paid?
I believe he billed 1 day for his preparation for testimony, and that was approximately $500.
So he billed. So he set the terms of the contract, the price for it.
No, he was brought in at a certain level. I believe it was an EX1 level, but I'd have to confirm that. And then he signed a letter of offer that included conflict of interest declaration, and that would be the mechanism by which we would facilitate his access.
What documents did he have access to?
You'll have to ask him. I believe he's appearing on
Well, I'm
Thursday.
asking you, actually. You're the president of the Canada Border Services Agency. You brought in someone who works for a consulting shop who does consulting with the Government of Canada, and you wrote them a check, and you wanted to get back to this. I'm very interested in who he met with. So I'm not going to ask Mr. Osowski, I'm going to ask you who he met with and what he saw, because this is really important. Because what it looks like to me is that we have a former executive who's involved in a massive scandal, a $60 million scandal, with a department that has investigations that include the RCMP kicking people's front doors in. I think it's pretty interesting that he's getting paid by his former employer. It looks to me like he was getting paid to get his story straight. So who did he meet with, and what documents did he see? And I'm asking you, not Mr. Osowski.
Mr. Chair, I don't understand the insinuation about getting stories straight. As I just said, it was to access information that he wanted to review in order to prepare to come and answer the questions of this committee. So I'm not aware that he met with anybody other than the person that was obtaining those documents for him. They were not new documents. They were documents that existed when he was the president.
Did any of them require a security clearance?
We validated that he has a security clearance. I don't believe any of the documents were classified, but again, I didn't review the documents that he accessed, but I can say that the documents
Who would have done that due diligence to verify that he ought to be seeing the documents that he be seeing?
They were
that he saw?
documents that existed when he was the president of the CBSA.
So he had access to all of the documents that existed when he was the president of the CBSA?
He had access to his emails, and then he requested specific documents to review.
Would you table a list of those specific documents that he requested access to?
Yes.
And what date did this occur?
I'll have to get back to you.
You will you get back to us?
Yes.
Okay. And there's certainty that he didn't meet with anybody?
I'm not aware that he met with anybody, but again, I think that question is best posed to him.
Was he furnished with any information, briefing materials, talking points, anything of that nature?
He wasn't furnished with any talking points. He did see material, as I have said.
What was this material? Prep material for committee?
It was documents that he wanted to review before coming to testify here.
Yeah, I get that he wanted to see them. What I'm asking is what the type of documents were. So we know that your department prepares you in advance of your committee. So to say that he wanted to see them, okay, fine. I believe it's in your collective interest that you all were aligned on what he said when he came to committee, because this is a massive scandal that your department is facing, that your agency is facing. So did he ask to see the same type of prep materials that he would have asked to see when he was the president, like the alignment on messaging that the department was using?
So there's no alignment and there's no messaging. Material, I asked for material to prepare myself. He wanted to review documents that existed when he was the president of CBSA to refresh his memory to come and testify. But again, he is coming on Thursday. I believe these questions are best put to him.
Thank you very much. That is the time. Turning to Ms. Yip, you have the floor for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the witnesses for taking the time to come again to speak on behalf of CBSA. So, Ms. O'Gorman, did you learn anything new from Kristen First's testimony before the House on April 17th?
I believe I was generally aware of all of the points he made. I apologize if I'm missing something, but there was nothing specific that jumped out as particularly new information.
Okay. Has CBSA requested any funds to be repaid back to the government from GC Strategies or Coradix and Dalian?
So we are going through all of the documentation and those contracts to determine whether restitution is warranted, and I'm working closely with our colleagues in the Public Services and Procurement Department to do that work, and would rely on them to seek restitution. So certainly that is what we are looking at.
So is it that department that would lead in the effort to recoup the funds?
Have the documentation that would give rise to any questions as to whether restitution is warranted, but we would work closely with PSPC to seek that restitution.
What is CBSA doing to ensure that resumes from prospective contractors and subcontractors are not being copy and pasted from requirement rubrics?
So two things, several things, but to that specific question that you've asked, we are having potential contractors attest to the CVs that are put forward to CBSA. We are separating the review of those contracts and having it done in conjunction with our procurement group, and we've also implemented a quality assurance function that will pull those CVs and their evaluations on a regular basis to do checks on them.
What is CBSA's policy or rules regarding work-related meetings with stakeholders and prospective contractors that take place off-site?
So our code of conduct was clear about both real and perceived conflicts that arise when employees are engaging with consultants and contractors outside of the specific business at hand. That being said, we have at CBSA put in a requirement that employees are to disclose any interactions with contractors outside of a contracting process, just to make sure that's clear to everybody and that there's transparency around that.
What about gifts?
The same, the code spoke to the receipt of gifts. Employees are not to accept gifts from contractors. There's a provision in the course of diplomatic relations where some kind of gifts can be received under a certain value and over a certain value declared, but that's covered in the Code of Conduct.
Do you know what the values are?
I can get back to the committee on that.
Okay.
It's enumerated.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. During Mr. First's testimony on April 17th, he explained that it is regular practice for contractors to replace resources at guidance of the client all the time, depending on whether there were discrepancies with their experience, whether they were not working very well, or whether or not they needed to move on to another project. Do you agree? Is this common practice?
So I don't know whether it's common practice. I do understand that when certain resources are put on a contract and those contracts are in place for some number of years, that they will move on to other jobs or not be available at the time. I can't speak as to whether it's common practice. Certainly if consultants or contractors aren't performing, that's a separate issue, and absolutely we would seek to remove them from the contract and have somebody else. So I would see those as two different issues, but I can't speak to the frequency with which that takes place.
Okay. Did CBSA provide guidance to GC Strategies instructing them to subcontract out the work?
No.
You mentioned in your opening statement about the mandate is to serve and protect Canadians. Do you feel moving forward that this is something CBSA can continue to do? What are your thoughts given this experience?
I've never for one moment doubted CBSA's ability to serve and protect Canadians. Every day they are finding contraband. Last year they welcomed about 86 million travelers. They are welcoming and processing asylum seekers. We are working with police partners on all manner of investigations. If you're referring to the situations that have arisen with regard to contracting, lack of paperwork, we are addressing that on all fronts, but I wouldn't want to confuse the extremely important need to be beyond reproach in our contracting and our transparency with the work of serving and protecting Canadians every day.
Thank you very much. Suivant, Madame Sinclair-Desgagne.
Ms. de Gagné, you have 6 minutes. The floor is yours. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. Ms. Gorman, I'll have a couple of questions for you a bit later, but I'll start with Mr. Larapuma. Now, sir, you were involved at all stages, more or less, of the awarding of contracts by the CBSA to GC Strategies, and your name is in a lot of places. But I'd like to start with the document that the Auditor General submitted to our committee, which includes all the invitations that CBSA officials received from GC Strategies. Your name is in 4 spots, and you received emails inviting you to events in 2019 and 2021. First, could you please tell me if you attended those events in 2019 and 2021?
Mr. Chair, I did not attend any event in 2019. I did attend 2 events in 2020.
2 événements en 2020.
2 events in 2020, and what were they specifically, please?
It was one event that was related to the virtual whiskey tasting, and the other one was a event at Lansdowne Park.
Qui d'autre était de l'Agence de services frontaliers présent?
Who else from the CBSA attended those whiskey tasting events?
From my recollection, Mr. Chair, my senior managers attended those events, as well as some of my colleagues.
Pouvez-vous, s'il vous plaît, nous donner des noms?
Could you please give me names?
It was Mr. Utano and Mr. McDonald were my senior managers, and Mr. Steve Luzon attended one of the events, the whiskey tasting, and then the other attendees were consultants.
Avez-vous personnellement?
Personally, well, your superiors were at the event. Were others informed of these invitations at the CBSA? What I mean by that is, did you follow the code of conduct that you have to inform a superior when someone receives an official, a gift of some sort?
I did not specifically inform anyone. My superiors were aware that I was attending.
Pourquoi n'avez-vous informé personne?
Why didn't you inform anyone? Is it because it's a common practice at the CBSA to receive gifts like those and not inform superiors? It's a common practice and therefore you don't need to inform your superiors of that fact?
No, Mr. Chair, I don't think it is common practice. At that time, ArriveCan was a very intense project. We were spending long hours working on ArriveCan, and I saw this as a team celebration, and I wanted to socialize with some of my teammates.
Pourtant, vous avez
And yet, I imagine you've read your code of conduct and that officials are not entitled to accept gifts, especially not from consultants. Could you please tell me the date, ballpark, the month, for example, that the whiskey tasting took place in 2020?
Mr. Chair, I will have to get back to you on the exact date. I do not have it. And
Est-ce que vous savez à peu près c'est à quelle saison?
Ballpark? What season, for example? Spring, summer, fall?
It was in the spring, Mr. Chair.
Donc, autour du 20 avril.
So, at about the 20th of April, when a multi-million-dollar contract was awarded to GC Strategies. Well, on the one hand, we have a multi-million-dollar contract that was non-competitive that was awarded to GC Strategies. And then a number of officials from CBSA, and I'm including you in that, sir, you were invited to a whiskey tasting, and no one saw fit to declare that invitation. You think that that's common practice? It's quite normal? Do you regret, first, agreeing to the invitation, and second, not informing your superiors, not only your senior manager, but the director of the agency? And that was my next question. But first, do you regret having agreed?
Mr. Chair, I made an error in judgment, and I do regret not informing my superiors as well as going to the event.
D'accord, donc vous reconnaissez que c'est une erreur de jugement.
So you acknowledge that it was an error in judgment. Now, Mr. Asuski, was he aware of what was occurring? Mr. Duan, he was aware, I imagine?
I do not know, Mr. Chair.
Vous n'avez aucune idée si M. Dohan, qui pourtant...
You don't know if Mr. Duan, who was overseeing your work, was aware of the existence of these invitations and those collegial moments between contractors and public officials.
I do not know, Mr. Chair.
D'accord.
I see. Well, I have about 30 seconds remaining. You were CC'd on an email between Mr. Utano and Ms. Juragan from Public Services and Procurement Canada regarding the misgivings that they raised about the awarding of non-competitive contracts over a 3-year period that Mr. Utano had pushed for, such that GC Strategies would get those contracts in April 2020 you were CC'd in those emails. At any point in time, did you say to yourself, well, Public Services and Procurement Canada is right, this contract should not be non-competitive, that we have time to send out a solicitation, a call for tenders, and especially given that it's such a large amount of money, it's not proper to have a non-competitive process. At any point did you say to yourself, this is not right? Did you have a discussion with Mr. Utano, or did you close your eyes to the matter?
Mr. Chair, I was not involved in the contracting processes at all within CBSA. My role was to lead the technical development of the application.
Monsieur
Et
Heller,
voilà, no,
vous êtes en copie.
désolé, madame.
Sorry to cut you off. Your time has run out.
Mr. Desjardins, you have the floor for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being present today. I'll start with the CBSA regarding the conditions that the president, the union president of the Customs, President Mark Weber, who gave testimony to this committee and highlighted some of the key issues that are persistent within the CBSA that have led to conditions for a scandal like ArriveCan to be possible. A number of the number, he made very clear, of supervisory officers exceeded the number of border officials. So it's very management-heavy work environment, resulting in extreme workloads for those at the front lines, and of course, those at the supervisory level not necessarily having to be directly supporting that work. There was a lack of consultations with the unions and the employees regards to this kind of application, the ArriveCan app. How can technology replace border officers when Canadians' data privacy and safety is involved?
So I've spoken to Mr. Weber about the concerns he's raised about the span of control, and those conversations are constructive and ongoing. And of course, we have many different workplaces and work locations and situations in the CBSA. The Toronto Pearson, many BSOs, remote ports of entry, only a couple. And so it's hard to put a number on span of control. Sometimes there are fewer people under a chief or superintendent, but just by virtue of where it's located. But I don't want to undermine his concerns, and I remain happy to have that dialogue with him. He certainly has a perspective that I'm interested in. I don't foresee technology ever replacing border service officers. The fact is, right now, people do put their information into the kiosk or through advanced declaration. What we are aiming to do, however, is free border service officers up to do the higher value work and targeting than collecting papers and keying in information. So I don't want to speak for Mr. Weber and his team, but that's where I think we can have a constructive dialogue on where we are using technology to allow people to focus on the higher threats.
No, thank you for that, Ms. O'Gorman. I think where unions, particularly public service workers, are concerned, when we've seen a pattern of this concern, particularly in the last government's scandal with the Phoenix pay system, we've seen public servants actually lose their job in favor of an application that just doesn't work. And in this case, I think it's very reasonable that the president of the Customs Union is concerned over the fact that there could be a more heavy reliance on this. And the Auditor General makes a point of this in Exhibit 1.2 of the audit of ArriveCan in relation to the continued heavy reliance on external resources to develop ArriveCan, particularly from the periods of April 2020 to March 2023. You can look at that report, page 7. How is it, what evidence can you suggest to public servants and those of the union that you are in fact trying to reduce the reliance on external resources, given the fact that the most recent application, ArriveCan, relied so heavily?
Thank you. I do not foresee CBSA needing fewer border service officers. The fact is, travel volumes are increasing, commercial volumes are increasing, efforts to...
But to make the apps, sorry. Just clearly on the apps. Like on technological development, there's an increase in reliance on external resources. Do you have a plan to actually begin the work to see CBSA have these kinds of public servants within the CBSA as an example of how you can rely less on external contractors Looking at an appendix, for example, just a seconded document we asked for evidence, Appendix B, contract values for GC Strategies, Dalian, and Cordix. This is a new document since you've been present in this committee. We asked in this committee for information in relation to these three companies that have just a few or a handful of individuals within them, and it reported that since January 1st, the period that we seconded supply for, 2011, that the CBSA was one of the main external external receivers of contracts since 2011. As a matter of fact, the former company, Cordix, which helped the former government, in the CBSA in particular, took in almost $42 million worth of contracts. It doesn't seem to me like you're actually taking the work of, or undergoing the work of trying to reduce this reliance. It's been going on for over a decade now.
As I said in my opening remarks, I have actually reduced the number of contractors to the tune of 25%, and several since I appeared here last time. We have 180 systems. Most of them are legacy, and so what I don't want to do is precipitously decrease our reliance on the few people that know COBOL and then find ourselves unable to address a system problem. So we're doing it deliberately, but we're actively doing it, and our senior level 1 committee is reviewing every contract before we put it in place.
I very appreciate that, Mr. Gorman. That's the answer I was looking for in many ways, was the evidence that you're doing this work and that it's going to actually happen, because this continued reliance creates a vulnerability. And like I said before, since 2011, almost $1 billion worth of contracts have went to shady insiders between both governments that have existed in that period of time. My last question is, what consultations have happened with the unions in light of this scandal, and what lessons learned, key lessons in particular, that you can share with the union that would actually create some confidence that, one, there will be a reduced reliance, and two, that their skills will be respected?
So this, the issue of what you're talking about, and particularly ArriveCan and information coming to light, does come up at our union management meeting. But the unions are consulted on any initiatives, including our current Traveler Modernization Initiative, our CARM initiative. So I believe there's good and frequent and open dialogue with employees and bargaining agents and representatives on an ongoing basis. But always happy to add more if the feedback is that these aren't sufficient.
Very much. Beginning our second round, Mr. Newdy, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chair, and through you, thank you to our witnesses for joining us here today. It appears that Mr. Ozowski was only invited back to be a contractor with CBSA after he was caught in a fib, telling the committee that he had never met with GC Strategies, yet we know that that was not the case, that he had, in fact, met with GC Strategies and Christian Firth on a Zoom call. But my question to you is, was Mr. Ozowski hired as a casual employee or as a contractor?
Casual employee.
So he was a casual employee, which means that you, as CBSA president, are responsible and accountable for his actions. Is that correct?
Yes, I signed the letter of offer.
And so the fact that you came to this committee today without the information of what information he accessed, I think is rather troubling. So I look forward to you providing this committee with all information that he accessed during his time as an employee while also being with PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Point out, there's 16,000 employees in the CBSA, so...
I'm going to stop you there. There may be 16,000 employees, but only one that you hired back, who was the former president of the CBSA. So there is an increased degree of accountability there. How many consultants do...
Mr. Newdy, I just want to pause you for a second, because I think you just reiterated the question that Mr. Barrett had before. This is not you're just reiterating that you're expecting the documents, but Mr. Barrett's already requested them. I just want to make, okay, that's fine. So it's clear for the witness as well for the analyst. Thank you, Mr. Newdy. You've got 3 minutes and 50 seconds.
16,000 employees. How many consultants currently are hired by CBSA?
I can come back to that.
Well, you told us 68 have been reduced, but I want to know how many total. You don't have that number at your fingertips here? You're able to say 16,000 employees, but yet you've been asked about consultants, but you're not able to tell us the total number of consultants here today at a meeting about consultants and consulting practices?
I'm happy to come back with a list of contracts that are currently active in CBSA, but that information is also largely posted. Any contracts over $10,000, I believe, is posted on the website. So that information
Yet you're able to
should
tell
be
us
available.
68 have been reduced, but you don't tell us the total number. Mr. Ali, I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce your last name, but could you describe this Lansdowne Park event? Was it a dinner? Was it drinks? What was this event?
Mr. Chair, it was a evening meal, probably ended around 7 p.m.
And was there any discussion with any of the attendees about any business dealings with CBSA? Was CBSA business discussed at all?
No, Mr. Chair, it was a team event. It was discussing ArriveCan work, not any contracts. Like I said, it was a hard project to work on. We were working long hours, and it was really just socializing with team members.
Business of ArriveCan was discussed then?
I wouldn't say any financial or contractual discussions were had. It was the day-to-day grind of ArriveCan was discussed.
The Conservative Party introduced an opposition motion calling for the recollection of funds paid to contractors who did not actually no work. Ms. O'Gorman, you mentioned in the response to a previous question that you were working on it. Are you recommending that any of those funds be reimbursed?
So absolutely, if we've found contractors who were paid that did no work, we will absolutely work with PSPC.
You're saying if. I want to know, have you recommended any funds be reimbursed?
Not as of yet. We're going through the material.
To whom did Fred Gaspar report when he was vice president of CBSA?
Me.
Why did he leave CBSA?
He had an opportunity at Transport Canada, and that's where he works now.
From December 2nd to December 8th, 2022, Mr. Gaspar took a trip to Bahrain. Are you aware of this trip?
I believe that was in the context of the World Customs Organization.
Are you aware if he did anything else while he was on that trip?
No?
Did he undertake any personal business while on that trip?
I don't know.
Did he attend the World Cup while on that trip?
I have no idea.
You never asked him? You never asked why inflated costs were incurred for a trip to that region of the country during the FIFA World Cup, and you didn't ask if it was perhaps because of an interest in seeing a World Cup game?
I don't... There's a WCO meeting. He would have attended as our representative. If he took extra time on his own cost to see and do something else, I don't believe that that is out of bounds. I don't know if he went to see the World Cup, and if he did, I'm not sure that that would be inappropriate.
Well, at tens of thousands of dollars, Canadian taxpayers might disagree. But
So-
could you
so, no,
provide
Mr.
us
Chair?
with a list of all meetings that he undertook while in Bahrain?
Mr. Chair, I think it's important to not let it stand that without any evidence, and any evidence that I've seen, that somebody's accused of spending taxpayer money on personal activities. I'm not aware of that. If there's information to suggest that, I would be interested in seeing it. I am happy to furnish the meetings that Mr. Gaspar attended while he was at the WCO. If he met other people on his own time, then that's a question for him. But I have not seen anything to see that he was using taxpayer dollars to do inappropriate things. If that's the case, we will look into it. But I think it's important not to let that accusation hang out there without any further information.
Thank you, Ms. Gorman. As is my custom, you have the last word. I'm sure we'll return to this. Up next is Ms. Shanahan. You have the floor for 5 minutes, please. Pardon me. Excuse me. The clerk was trying to get my attention. Ms. Bradford, you have the floor for 5 minutes. Pardon me.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For Ms. Gorman, is CBSA reviewing Diane Daly's involvement in the ArriveCan procurement process since Christian First questioning in the House of Commons on April the 17th?
So just stepping back, as the committee's aware, there was a set of allegations put forward by a company called Bottler AI. Those allegations were examined by our Professional Integrity Division, who has undertaken various investigations relating to that. Diane Daly was involved. At this point, I don't know the status of the investigation and whether she is being investigated or whether she is a witness.
Thank you. Are there appropriate uses for subcontractors in procurement?
I'll say this. Certainly, there is a demand for companies to gather resources and take those resources and bid on contracts and furnish those resources to help departments carry out certain activities, and that is particularly common in the IT space. And there's a certain amount of overhead that's offered by those companies that the individuals either don't have the capacity or interest in doing themselves. And I believe that Public Services and Procurement is well placed to testify to that, and they have. Questions that have come up for me is when those often small companies will subcontract to multinational firms. I don't understand why that would happen. I'm not suggesting it is offside or illegal, but I do find that questionable when the value added of the companies, of the resourcing companies, is to deal with the overhead of bidding, why they would then subcontract to major firms. So I think transparency around that would be very helpful, but is it offside to subcontract? No, it's done. And again, the value added of some of these companies is to do that subcontracting, but why a two-person company would subcontract to a multinational, I don't understand that.
Okay. Now, does consulting with companies occur before a contract or RFP is issued?
So again, I'm not the contracting expert, but my understanding is that a company would gather resources and with those resources bid on a request for proposal that's put out, and they would align those resources with the type of skills that are being sought through the request for proposal.
So why was KPMG selected as a subcontractor to GC Strategies?
As I said, those are the types of questions. As I have gone through this, the material and the information that has come to light, I've had that question as well. I don't know that it is not permitted in the contracting rules. These are commercial relationships between companies, and there is one accountable company who holds the contract and is responsible for the resources that it furnishes. But again, I can understand the questions, and like I said, I've had the questions as to why large companies would be subcontracted. Perhaps there's resources that work for both of those companies, and again, I don't have insight into those commercial relationships, but I understand that there's a lack of transparency in explaining those relationships.
And why was the CFO branch of CBSA not made aware of PSPC's recommendation to execute a non-competitive process with the second of GC Strategies contracts?
As I've testified, for some reason, CBSA had a system where if the contract was being let by PSPC, the IT group would deal directly with PSPC. That's not a best practice. That has stopped since I have come to the CBSA. Everything goes through our procurement group. They do a challenge function and they interface with PSPC. So I don't know if it was like that because it was during the pandemic and people were moving fast, or that's how it was set up, but that's not how it happens now.
Okay, Mr. Chair, how much time do I have left?
About 10 seconds, so a very quick question, please.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'll defer.
Okay.
Finished. Thank you.
Thank you. Suivant, c'est Madame Sticler-Desgagnés pour 2 minutes 30 secondes, s'il vous plaît.
2.5 minutes, Ms. Sticler-Desgagnés. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I'll continue with my questions for Mr. Leperma. Mr. Utano, during the entire contracting saga at GC Strategies, had a number of exchanges with Public Service and Procurement Canada about the nature of the contract to be awarded to GC Strategies. And you were CC'd, sir, on many of these emails. I have them here from 2020, 26th of March 2020 to the 26th of March. And Ms. Duregan from PSPC questions the use of the national security exemption, which is part and parcel of the contract. Now, you were CC'd. At any point in time, did you say to yourself, well, something's awry here with the way we are awarding non-competitive contracts that are multi-million-dollar contracts by invoking the national security exemption when these contracts are for 3 years. You were CC'd. You contributed to the conversations. Did you ever wonder about that?
Mr. Chair, I did not have any reason to think that there was anything wrong happening. My role, again, was to lead the technical development of ArriveCAN, and there was a team responsible for procurement. And I was CC'd in those emails for information purposes only.
Donc, vous êtes en train de me dire qu'un directeur par...
So you're telling me that an acting director of the CBSA didn't agree with the findings of the Auditor General, i.e. that these contracts were not properly awarded and shouldn't have been awarded in this manner. You didn't consider that there was a problem. You still don't consider there to be a problem, and you're the director of the CBSA. Does that sum up the situation quite adequately?
Mr. Chair, at the time, I was a manager reporting to Mr. Otano, who was the executive director. I did not have any procurement-related or contracting-related functions at the time.
D'accord, mais maintenant vous en avez, vous êtes directeur par...
I see, but now you do, and you're acting director. If a manager is promoted to director, they normally would have good judgment, and they should be able to sound alarm bells in such cases and say, look, I think there's a problem here. This is not proper. Public taxpayers' money shouldn't be wasted. I'd just like to remind you of something, sir, because I think it's my role to do so. Your wage at the CBSA for the past several years is paid out of the taxpayers' pockets. The money that was wasted on these contracts to the tune of millions of dollars to GC Strategies, that's taxpayers' money. It's not your money. It's not GC Strategies' money. It's taxpayers' money. So when you tell me that you were a manager and you, had no input, and now you're acting director and you still have no input, it strikes me, you're basically telling us that you don't give a damn about taxpayers' money.
Up next is Mr. Desjardins for 2.5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Who at the CBSA directed Bottler and KPMG to work with GC Strategies?
So my understanding is from some of the documents that I've seen that was from Mr. McDonald, but I'm waiting for the outcomes of an ongoing investigation, so I'm not comfortable saying that without a final assessment.
It seems to me that internal lobbying networks have largely corrupted the CBSA in this instance. Given that there's an ongoing investigation, I believe that's in some evidence an admission of at least some or partial truth to that fact. Wouldn't you agree?
I'll take issue with the corruption comment. I don't know that I've seen evidence of corruption. I've seen evidence.
Well, I can remind you of the evidence of corruption. For example, the CBSA paid $33,222 of legal bills for Mr. Cameron McDonald to prepare for a committee appearance at the Operation and Government OGO Committee to talk about his public service job. That's an annual salary for many Canadians. You know, that's a lot of money, and to put it in other ways. In this instance, that he would get so much money, according to a recent filing, that he would get $33,000 in protection from the CBSA to try to get his story straight in some ways at an Operation Government meeting, in addition to the fact that you've just admitted that there's an ongoing investigation. So I find issue with the fact that there could not be an instance where you can perceive corruption. I mentioned a fact earlier before, which was a government sponsor, or we got a government document known as Appendix B about the value of contracts between 3 companies, GC Strategies, Dalian, and Cordix. These 3 companies since 2011, pause there for a moment because this has been going on for over a decade, have siphoned over $1 billion out of the public service into these contracts, including a profit, including a network that would have enabled these people to continue to deprive the public service, but also to continue to deprive Canadian taxpayers. In addition to the fact that there's this unethical relationship between members like Mr. Autano and Mr. McDonald going to big fancy events,
Mr. Desjardins,
including
do you have
wine tasting.
your time has expired, Mr. Desjardins, so we'll have to come back to you. Now
I want to just, if I can just summarize that question, is there corruption?
And I would appreciate the opportunity to answer. I sincerely take issue with the term that you're using, particularly as it relates to people where there's ongoing processes. So there's a Treasury Board policy that provides for paying legal assistance for employees. That was followed, and I don't believe that the lawyer is being used to get stories straight. I think people rightfully have sought legal advice. There's a provision for having that paid by the Treasury Board, and that was taken. So I want to be clear that I don't agree with your terminology.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barrett, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
I want to circle back to the number of consultants that you have reduced. You said the number was 68. What is the total number of consultants that CBSA is using?
So I'll have to come back. Is your question in the IT? So we've got a number of contracts across the organization that relate both to informatics, guard services, training. So we have a lot of contracts. We have been reducing our reliance on IT contracts, and I can come back with the list that we currently have.
Yeah, let's get a full list of all the contracts. You said the number that you reduced was 68, so it would be interesting to know what that reduction is from. It's important to note that, of course, CBSA officers are currently considering taking job action, and part of their grievance is excess management. So when taxpayers are also paying for more outside consultants and more outside management, that's going to impact the traveling public and commerce in Canada. I want to talk about Mr. Ossowski's access to documents when he was hired for a day to prepare for his committee appearance. As president of the CBSA, are there any documents that you don't have access to, within the CBSA?
I don't think I would have access to all of the documents from my computer, but my assumption is that I could access any of our holdings. I would.
So PricewaterhouseCoopers used to do extensive business, has historically done extensive business with the Canada Border Service Agency. Currently, you've said they're not doing any business. Mr. Ossowski is recruited by PricewaterhouseCoopers from being the head of the Canada Border Service Agency. And what better way to get business with the CBSA than to hire its former president, understand its workings? Now, Mr. Ossowski came back to your employ to prepare for a committee appearance, but only after he'd been caught lying. So there's an integrity question about the individual. So you hire the individual knowing that the lie's been told, and then give them access to the information that he would have had access to, you said, while he was president. Would that not be commercially valuable to PricewaterhouseCoopers to have one of their top consultants, the former head of the CBSA, get the office door unlocked and logged into the computer, and you signed his letter of offer, you said, but you seem like, to be honest, a bit laissez-faire about, unconcerned about what he accessed and who he talked to, and it doesn't seem to have occurred to you before today that perhaps there was a commercial interest with someone who had demonstrated dishonesty in front of a parliamentary committee. Does that concern you?
So, Mr. Chair, again, I'm going to take issue with the language around lying. Mr. Ossowski testified to the fact that he had not recalled meeting or being in a meeting where individuals from GC Strategies were on the screen.
Ma'am, he said he wasn't in the meeting, and he was in the meeting. So by any other definition, that's a lie. So let's move on to the substance of the question. So we won't litigate whether or not he lied. I'm asserting it. You refute it. We'll accept that. Are you not concerned about at least the appearance of the circumstances that you created by hiring Mr. Ossowski? It seemed like it was in his interest to get this offer of employment from you for the day, not in the interest of the CBSA. So what's the advantage to the CBSA, if not to get stories straight, which you've taken issue with, that characterization? So if it was just so he could access his emails, why not pay him $1 so that he was technically employed? Why are we giving the guy $500? Seems like a good get for him for the day.
Yeah, so again, if hiring him on casual to give him access to documents to prepare for the appearance, it's in the Crown's interest that former officials come and can testify to what they did and why they did it while they were in their job, and that was the rationale for bringing him back. If he did not need to come back and could have accessed the information and the documents that, again, date back to his time as president, then that's on me, and I would happily provide that access going forward without any framework of employment around it.
Can you provide to this committee a list of all of the other occurrences where similar treatment has been offered to former employees of the CBSA with relation to their testifying before parliamentary committees during your tenure as CBSA president?
There is nobody.
So special access, it seems like special treatment for
but
Mr. Osowski.
There haven't been retired people who are former officials invited to the committee. So the other employees who have moved departments were also given the offer to access or tell CBSA what documents they may wish to see to prepare for their own testimony.
Thank you.
The only one who was paid to prepare
Thank
before.
you very much.
Because the others are employees.
That is your time.
Not of CBSA.
Turn now,
No, of
order.
the
Turn
federal
now to
government,
Ms.
of the Crown.
Ms. Shanahan. You have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Well, thank you very much, Chair, and I want to thank the witnesses, especially Ms. O'Gorman, who has appeared before this committee before, who has answered all questions from members here on this very important matter of ArriveCAN, and which, of course, is being addressed in a number of other committees as well. For my part, I feel that I have really asked all the questions that I need to ask, but we have the witnesses here today, so I would like to perhaps give Ms. O'Gorman a chance to clarify any issues, any questions that she hasn't had a chance to do. Starting with this question of reimbursing former employees when they're called back in front of committee. Ms. O'Gorman, can you tell us how that works and why this is done in this way?
So I'll share my understanding of it, is that it is a practice when former officials are called to testify, as they are in litigation after they've retired, as they are at the Labor Relations Board for grievances after they've retired, and in this case, an individual was called to testify before a parliamentary committee after he had retired. It's in the Crown's interest for those individuals to come prepared, and in order to prepare, sometimes they require access to documents to refresh their memory of activities and decisions that were taken and rationale while they were doing the job. So I did put a formality around that employment to give him access to it. And as I've said, if that wasn't necessary, that's on me. It certainly wasn't an effort to enrich Mr. Osowski. It absolutely was not an effort to align any stories. He prepared the way he needed to prepare. I'm happy to to provide a list of documents he accessed, but as I said, you can ask him on Thursday.
Ms. Shanahan, I've just paused. Could you just move your microphone kind of out and down a little bit? It's just a little, that, and maybe just say a few words.
Is that better?
Is that better, Madam Clerk? Maybe say a few more words.
Yes.
It's.
Yes, I'm sorry that.
It is good.
I may have moved it inadvertently.
I have
Is that
paused.
better now?
It is. Yes. Thank you. I've stopped the clock. I'm going to start it. You have 2 minutes and 40 seconds, please.
Very good. Well, so Gorman, thank you for that answer. And so this policy is in place. In fact, when you say in the interest of the Crown, it is to help parliamentarians in their work with committee. Is there a time limitation? Because I understand that for ArriveCAN, for example, the contractors, the subcontractors that are being question. They have been working for the Government of Canada for 13 years, including, of course, the former government under Stephen Harper. Is there a time limitation?
So I'll just be clear, there's not a policy in terms of bringing people back. The issue that I was focused on was the access to the information that he sought to prepare. And like I said, if there didn't need to be formality around that, I'll own that decision. You may wish to ask him on Thursday whether the amount he did receive was worth it. You know, again, this will be his, I think, third time appearing. So, like I said, this relates to the provision of documents that he wanted to see, and the framework of the agreement goes until the end of June, but is tied to appearances before the parliamentary committee.
And I think I'm going to have to go back to previous questions that have already been asked, but perhaps you can share an update with the committee regarding the CBSA's internal investigations into the Arrive Camp procurement.
So they're ongoing. People are being interviewed, as I understand it. There was a motion before the federal court to seek a stay of two of those processes, and we are waiting for the decision by the federal court, so we won't conclude on a couple of those until the federal court has ruled.
And is there anything that you can share regarding the claims of Min Don's missing emails?
Those two, that investigation remains underway. That work remains underway.
And Chair, how much time do I have?
You've got time for a 3-word question, I'd say, or thereabouts, but your time is up. But
I will leave it at that then.
All right. Turning now to our third round, Mr. Nader, you have the floor for 5.
Thank you, Chair. Has Mr. Ozowski been in contact with anyone at CBSA since he was been summoned to appear before this committee on Thursday?
I recommend you ask Mr. Ozowski.
No, I'm asking you as the president of CBSA. Has anyone from CBSA been in contact with Mr. Ozowski in advance of his summons for this Thursday?
If he has asked for documentation, I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. We know that the RCMP has raided the home of GC Strategies founder Christian Firth. I would like to know what documentation CBSA has thus far provided to the RCMP.
I'm not tracking that. I'm not the RCMP doesn't come through me for requests of the CBSA. They don't report to me. They will conduct their investigation and they will seek the information that they feel is necessary. I'm not going to track that. It's an investigation. They are free to come and obtain any information they feel is necessary.
Your lack of curiosity about an ongoing criminal investigation involving your department is surprising, that you're not going to track the information that is being collected or is being asked for, considering that there are quite literally criminal investigations ongoing involving employees at your department, that doesn't trigger any curiosity on your part. But I want to go back on
Mr. Chair?
It wasn't a question, but...
Well, but it's a statement about how I'm conducting myself. So I'm not going to ask people to report to me on whether they've been interviewed by the RCMP or what documents they've been provided. It's an investigation by the police, and I am running CBSA, but I'm not going to keep logs of what they do. They will do what they do. They don't report to me. So it's not a lack of curiosity. It's a respect for the police investigation.
You are right that the RCMP does not report to you, but the 16,000 employees that you noted do report to you, and the documents that are contained within CBSA's possession are relevant to you as president of CBSA. So the fact that you're not tracking what documents are going out from CBSA to the RCMP is surprising, frankly, because we know the challenges that CBSA has had with documentation because of the report we've had from the Auditor General, paper trails not existing, paper trails being deleted, emails being deleted. We know from Mindone's emails magically disappearing. So I want to know what you as president of the CBSA are doing to maintain the integrity of the documents within CBSA, that they are being preserved, that they're being kept intact, and so they're not magically disappearing when there is an ongoing RCMP investigation, which includes the Canada Border Services Agency. What's being done?
You know, if I asked employees to report to me on what documents they may have provided to the RCMP or interviews, I would be sitting here being accused of interfering in a police investigation. And so the RCMP has every right to come and obtain the documents it feels it needs. I don't feel the need to track that. Similarly, when the Auditor General comes in, they work with the team to get the documents they need, and nobody reports that to me. I don't interfere with that. My expectation is, and I've made that clear, that the documents that anybody in those positions, be it the Auditor General or the police, wish to seek and obtain, that they are handed over. So I don't know what you're talking about in terms of the magical disappearance of emails, but I can tell you that the RCMP is gathering the information it feels that it needs.
I can tell you which emails have magically disappeared. It was Mindone's, your former...
You don't have evidence of that.
Mr. Chair, I think it's very clear. I mean, I see you're defending Mr. Doan, and that's your right. But the fact is, this has been very well litigated in the media about emails disappearing. So I'm concerned about the integrity of the data and documents maintained at CBSA. How much time do I have, Chair?
Mr. Chair, you'll understand if I don't take media articles as factual basis to act with regard to employee conduct.
So you're saying that the story in the Globe and Mail is false?
I'm saying that we're conducting our own investigation, and you're stating that articles in the newspaper are equivalent to determined facts. So I'm saying we continue to look into it, we continue to investigate, and that's the basis upon which any action will be taken.
Thank you very much. Up next is Ms. Khalid. You have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. I was listening to a lot of the questioning here by my conservative colleagues, and it always, astounds me as how they never let the facts get into the way of their political jargon that they really put out there. I mean, for example, just today we heard that Bahrain was the place where the World Cup and nefarious things happened, but actually the World Cup was in Qatar. So I'm not really sure how that really plays out with the narrative of Mr. Nader. But again, I thank you, Ms. O'Gorman, for being here today and for answering questions yet again on this important topic. And I think the sentiments of the committee are very much the same, in that something happened here. Taxpayer dollars were used. We are trying to get to the bottom of what happened and how can we improve the process. And I think that your open and honest testimony here has been quite inspiring. So perhaps I'll start with asking you. I know the last time you came here, you talked about the CBSA's plan moving forward. So perhaps you can start by giving us an update as to what the plan has been as a response to the Auditor General's recommendations.
Sure, thank you. So we've made 22 commitments. I had commissioned an internal audit as well, and that's underway, and that's also informing commitments or giving rise to commitments to address some of the gaps in the processes that existed in the department. So I can group it into a few categories. One is training and guidance. It needs to be ongoing. We have I required retraining of executives and managers with delegated authority, and we continue to put out improved guidance. Quality assurance and controls, our second line of defense, as it were. I don't want to keep finding about gaps through our audits. That's an expensive way to find out that we don't have coverage and that our documentation isn't in order. Conflict of interest, I indicated that we've also done some work on that, both on the side of contractors and employees. Organizational changes. So I've mentioned a few times because it is quite significant in terms of the operations of the department, which is contracts going through one by one to a senior review committee. That's giving rise to a lot of discussions about whether we even need contracts in some cases, reprioritizing what we need to do, and then bolstering the capacity of our internal procurement team. It's increased by 20%. Credit to that team that the attrition rate has decreased to 7% from 35%. So we have a very engaged and knowledgeable team that's fanned out across the organization to support other divisions and sectors in their procurements. And then improving our information management practices. So the policy is quite clear on documents of business value. I don't think there's business value in having 18 emails back and forth versus decision documents that are clear and can be found with all of the other relevant documents, be it in a procurement file or investigation. So those are the areas that we're working across. We're more advanced. We've completed 9 of our commitments and should have the rest done in a year. But it also speaks to the culture. It's not about new rules and processes. It's about fewer priorities. It's about exposure to where we're going in terms of contracting, where we need contracts, discussions about what we can do internally. So it also is happening at the level of the culture of the organization.
Thanks very much for that. And I always wonder about the role of the procurement directorate. I mean, in a recent article, we found that the organizations or the companies that the Conservatives are really going after, trying to connect to corruption and to the Liberal government, were actually brought in by the Harper Conservative government. So 13 years ago, and have then continued the process. So perhaps you can maybe shed some light on what is the role of the procurement directorate at the CBSA, and how new is this, and how does this go beyond governments of the day, and is there actual corruption that's happening here by ministers or by the Prime Minister?
So the procurement group has always existed. It existed in a smaller form, and as I've testified, it existed in a way that they were not the point person on all of the procurements. So that's changed. And they're there to assist their colleagues who have to get their work done. And sometimes getting the work done requires outside contractors, whether it's because we don't need that skill set in an ongoing way, that we can't recruit that skill set, or that we need specialized resources for a limited period of time. So they work with their areas across the department to determine what it is that needs to be delivered, determine whether procurement is necessary, and if so, what's the best way to carry out that procurement, and obviously be a liaison with PSPC when those procurements are being
Thank you very
led
much.
by that department.
Suivant, c'est Madame Sicle-Degagné pour 2 minutes 30 secondes, s'il vous plaît.
Ms. Sicle-Degagné. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Ms. O'Gordon, this question is for you. We listened to your testimony. There's been a number of questions. I don't think it's a matter of which documents you'll be submitting to the RCMP. But when you appeared before the committee a number of months ago, you were very clear about the fact that your role now was to look forward, but also to tidy things up at the CBSA and ensure that ArriveCan, an event like this, an incident like this, would never occur again. And what I'm observing today, and you've heard this yourself, is that there are a number of employees of the CBSA that clearly violated the basic code of conduct, and they still hold their positions, and they've been promoted, not just Mr. Opelma and Mr. Lauzon, but others. They've had problematic conduct, to put it mildly. So there have been a couple of employees that were suspended, but apart from that, you don't seem to have tidied up shop very much.
So there's two issues. One, it's the ongoing work of the Professional Integrity Division and what they are examining based on the documents that have come forth over the course of the past couple of years. And so I have made it clear to them that I have expectations that they will deliver high quality and as fast as is reasonably possible. And so through the course of looking back, they will come to decisions and recommendations regarding what they've found. They will work with human resources colleagues who, when an investigation is completed and if it's founded, then the next step is to determine whether there's any mitigating factors and take appropriate discipline. And they have a grid that can compare discipline for various.
Thank you. Perfect. Now, could you submit the report to the committee? We know that the findings are of great interest to us because they have to do with what's occurring at the CBSA in the wake of the Auditor General's report. Could you share those findings with us and tell us when you will be sharing them with us?
So I referred to ongoing investigations, so I don't have a document or a report. I have previously expressed that these are internal examinations of employee behavior and conduct.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm asking you a direct question. We and the public, taxpayers who are paying your employees' wages, want to know what's going to happen to those employees that lack judgment, that broke the rules, and that wasted taxpayers' money. Folks want to know, as president of the CBSA, how are you going to get Canadians and Quebecers those answers?
A few things there. There's the issue of hospitality, and is there a link to wasting taxpayers' money there? I'm not sure. There's a values and ethics issue at play that we will be looking at with employees who have engaged contrary to the code of conduct. But I don't, and I said previously that we are looking.
Could you please respond directly to my question? Sorry, your time has run out, but I'm just asking for an answer, Mr. Chairperson. I didn't get an answer to my question. Well, you'll have another round. But, Mr. Chair, I didn't get an answer.
For 2.5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Utano provided oversight of a budget that he was responsible for, which is $54.5 million at the CBSA. In addition to overseeing 66 contractors, are there any internal or external reviews into the $54.5 million a year budget and the 66 contractors that Mr. Utano oversaw, especially in light of the fact that he pushed for specific contractors, including KPMG?
So, your reference to the $54 million budget, can you just tell me where that comes from?
Well, I believe it came from his operating accounts for the total amounts that were approved for GC Strategies, for example, and other contractors from a total fund of $54.5 million. It could be more. Maybe you have more information on missing documents.
So I guess apologies. My question is the $54 million in reference to the cost that has been put out for ArriveCan?
So of the total amounts that we were able to obtain from the documents provided to the Auditor General, in addition to an affidavit that was submitted that cites $54.5 million at the CBSA, the question is not so much on the amount, but on the accountability and transparency of that fund, particularly as noted in the affidavit, or even just the overseeing of the 66 contractors.
So I apologize. What are you looking for?
So in an affidavit that was submitted in a lawsuit, he submitted the fact that he was responsible for $54.5 million in addition to overseeing 66 contractors. It's the affidavit from the lawsuit against the CBSA. You're probably familiar. Are you familiar with the lawsuit against the CBSA?
Is that the federal court?
Yes.
Yes.
In that, have you reviewed the affidavit?
Not personally, no.
I see. In relation to the affidavit, it's submitted that he was responsible for $54.5 million at the CBSA, in addition to overseeing 66 contractors. My question is, given this information, whether you're just receiving this information now or in previous, is there any internal or external investigations or reviews into that specific responsibility?
I don't know what we would review there. I
Conflicts
think,
of interest, fraud, corruption.
so that's certainly part of what I would expect our investigators to be looking at. I don't think they would break their work down by budget. I guess that's where I'm struggling with the question. So they are
What about
looking.
the contractors?
I'm afraid,
Like
Mr.
66
Digely,
contractors.
I'm afraid that is the time. I do plan to give you another round. Turning now to Mr. Barrett, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
I want to talk about the dinner at Lansdowne. What was the venue?
I believe, Mr. Chair, it was Joey's.
Okay. What date did this happen?
I apologize, Mr. Chair. I do not have the exact date. I can provide it to you.
Please do. How many people were there?
If I recall correctly, maybe 5 people, Mr. Chair. Between 5 and 10 people.
Who were they?
I was there. Mr. Firth was there. His partner, I forget his name, Mr. Anthony, I believe, was there. Mr. Utana was there. I don't recall if Mr. McDonald was there, but he may have been. And some other team members, contractors like Mr. Murphy, and that's about the number of people I can remember, sir.
Mr. Murphy's a contractor with which or with whom?
He was one of the subcontractors through GC Strategies.
Was Mindone there?
No, sir.
And what was for dinner?
I believe I had a burger, and there was appetizers, whatever Joey's food was.
What about drinks?
People
Cocktail.
had drinks.
Beer, wine, mixed drinks, soda?
I had a beer.
Okay. And what did you say the discussions were about? You said it was about the work of, like, the day-to-day of ArriveCAN.
Yes, so we were working long hours, and we were talking. My conversation was mostly about the challenges of implementing ArriveCAN from a technical point of view.
So what would Mr. Anthony and Mr. Firth have contributed to those conversations? Because they don't do any technical work. They bill, and they build more than 1,500 times. So their business is contracting. It's not IT work. So there was no grind. You talk about you talked about the grind of ArriveCAN, but for GC Strategies there was no grind. It was only grift, and so their business was drumming up more business. It wasn't about programming. So what would their contributions to those if you're talking about programming, I'm not a programmer. If someone started into a conversation with me about programming, they might as well be speaking, a language I don't understand, literally, in that case.
Mr. Chair, absolutely. I didn't have much conversations with Mr. Firth or Mr. Anthony about programming. I was mostly speaking with the team members that I was working with.
Okay, so who were? Well, there's only 5 of you, and 2 of them are Christian Firth and Darren Anthony. So did they just talk to themselves? So who organized this dinner?
I believe it was Mr. Firth.
Mr. Firth organized it. Did anyone talk to him?
Other than greetings and offhand conversations about how life is, I didn't speak to him specifically.
Well, so we've got 5 people sitting at a table. The host invites the 3 government employees, 2 government employees, a subcontractor of GC Strategies, and the 2 principals at GC Strategies. And the government employees don't speak to the dinner hosts. at a table of 5 people. We're not talking, this room has a very long format. It would be lost on people who are maybe watching this webcast that for different reasons, this room is set up with a very long table. 5 people sitting at a table at Joey's Seafood is a little bit more intimate than that. But to not talk about the only business that GC Strategies does, that seems a bit incredible. You'd agree that sounds that we've got this dinner, drinks are flowing, we've got contractors of the government, subcontractors of the government, taking people out, and no one's talking to them. That doesn't sound believable. Do you think that sounds believable?
Chair, I apologize if I said no one talked to them. No one talked to them about coding. We were talking about people's lives, their day-to-day family issues, as if it was a social gathering. We did not talk specifically, absolutely, did not talk about any contracting issues or any.
So 5 people who only have ArriveCan in common sit down in a bar and.
Question, Mr. Barrett.
And they didn't talk about ArriveCan. They talked about kids' soccer schedules.
If anything we talked about ArriveCan was about the challenges of implementing ArriveCan.
Because they're not
Thank
programmers.
you very much. We're going back to Ms. Shanahan for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. And again, I'd like to thank the witnesses for being here today. Chair, I'm hearing a little bit of noise. Are the interpreters okay? Move the microphone again.
Let me just check. Oh, no. Yeah, you're correct. I'm getting a thumbs down for a second. So I have paused the clock. Maybe say a few words, Miss Shanahan.
Yes, I think it has something to do. I have to take my glasses on and off, and I think that moves the microphone or the boom there around. Apologies.
We're good. I'm seeing smiles from the interpreter. So back to you, please. I'll resume the clock.
Well, very good. So again, I'd like to thank especially Ms. O'Gorman for being here today and answering all the questions that members have been putting to her. But Chair, I think you'll agree that our committee, Public Accounts, has a lot of important work to do. Yes, ArriveCan, and we've had multiple meetings. I think we're over 15, 16, 17 meetings on ArriveCan. But we also have other work to do in reviewing the Auditor General's reports, and as well as getting out some of our draft reports from previous studies. But our work plan has been changed many times on multiple occasions with short notice and without consultation with all members. And so therefore, Chair, I move the following motion that given that the Chair has yet to table a subcommittee report for subcommittee approval in relation to the committee's future business, it be agreed that, number 1, the committee dedicate its meeting on May 21st to follow up on the committee's recommendations, i.e. spring cleaning. 2, the committee dedicate its meeting on May 23rd to witness testimony from officials on Report 6, Canadian Net Zero Emissions Accountability Act 2030 Emissions Reduction Plan. The committee dedicate its meeting on May 28th to consideration of draft reports. The committee dedicate its meeting on May 30th to witness testimony on Report 1, ArriveCan. The committee dedicate its regular meeting on June 4th to witness testimony on Report 2, Housing in First Nations Community. And 6, the committee dedicate its meeting on June 6th in the first hour to the appearance of Minister Bill Blair on Report 1, ArriveCan, and the second hour to the appearance of Minister Patty Hajdu on Report 2, Housing in First Nations Communities, and that the Chair table reports from the subcommittee on agenda and procedure at the next committee meeting for approval by the committee. Chair, I believe that a document. The text has been sent in both English and French to the clerk, and I propose, if you want to suspend while members look at that.
Yep.
But I am certainly able to speak to the motion.
Yeah. Mr. Janice, I see I'm going to come right back to you. I just want to have just a quick word with the clerk here for a second. 1 sec, please. Thank you. I see hands up. Ms. Shanahan, so we're not in committee business currently. Your motion certainly is noted, with a small edit from the clerk, which I will get to at the appropriate time. So you're welcome to bring this up when we get to committee business after hearing from the witnesses. So for this is not a matter at hand motion, so I will rule it out of order so we can get back to our witnesses and then come back to committee business as per the schedule.
Point of order, Chair. With all due respect, I challenge that decision. This is what we've done.
That is your certainly your right to do it, and I will. So technically, you're right, Mr. Barrett. You cannot move a motion or point of order, but as the mover of the motion, she does have the floor to respond to me. So, Ms. Shanahan, just say I challenge the chair without the point of order.
I challenge the chair.
Very good. All right.
This decision.
Roll call, please. Thank you very much. And perhaps just explain that this is.
Yes, I will read it out. I just need one moment. She's still here. Perfect. Okay. Shall the decision of the chair be sustained? Mr. Aria? No. Ms. Bradford?
No.
Ms. Khalid?
No.
Ms. Shanahan?
No.
Ms. Yip?
No.
Mr. Nader?
Yes.
Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Monsieur Blanchette-Jonca?
Oui.
Mr. Desjardins?
I think it's Miss Blaney.
Oh, Ms. Blaney, my apologies.
I vote no.
Six nays, 4 yeas.
Very good. I'm just going to suspend for just 3 minutes and then come back, and then I'll recognize speakers. slight change, but I'm looking for a friendly amendment, friendly change on you, so we don't have to have an amendment to it, and that is to, so as you know, I give the clerk discretion to work with witnesses on their availability. The clerk informs me that on May 23rd, we have secured transportation in place of the net zero, and the net zero study will be on June the 6th. So with your permission, we'd like to swap that on your motion. And you're signaling to me no.
No, because June the 6th, we know how difficult it is to get confirmation of ministers, and it's very important to the members. So I suggest, and I think we go into later in June.
I see. So your motion is actually proposing we bump the study on June the 6th and have Minister Haiju in.
We have both Minister Bill Blair and Minister Haiju.
Correct.
On June 6th.
Okay. Then could my amendment to your amendment to your motion be then that instead of the net zero study on May 23rd, that it be the Transport Canada study? Both, I'll just point out, were priorities of government members. So I'm looking for your permission to swap one of your studies for another.
Well, we can have an alternate date then for the Canadian net zero emissions, as long as we can say that takes place before June 2020th. At that meeting, to the best of the ability, I'm going to look for some appropriate wording. But I think it's, we understand that that's normally how it happens, that it's on a best efforts basis. So I think that part of that friendly amendment, which I believe has to be proposed by someone, if we can see the wording on that, would be to, on a best efforts basis, or indeed, let's say that it must be scheduled, because I
okay, no. If you want to extend your motion and move another date, you're going to have to make that amendment. I'm looking for your permission. No. I'm looking for your permission to schedule national trade corridors on June 23rd, because pardon me, on May 23rd, because that is where the clerk has lined up the witnesses. Yes or no?
Not without a guarantee that we have.
This is no. I'm not making a no, Ms. Shannon. You can
point of order.
Hold on, Ms. Shannon. You're not negotiating with me for an expanded motion. You've tabled your motion. You can come with a sub-amendment. Hold on, Ms. Khalid. You can come back and propose another date, but I'm not in a position to expand your motion. I'm asking for a clerical change, as per what the clerk's reporting to me, to do the transportation on June 23rd. Yes, Ms. Khalid, you have a point of order.
Thanks, Chair. 2 points. One, I believe that Ms. Shanahan cannot amend her own motion. And secondly, I do believe that you, as Chair, need unanimous consent in order to move a motion to amend any motion on the floor as well. So just a friendly reminder,
Yeah,
Chair.
well, I'm looking for Ms. Shanahan's agreement, so I don't have it from her. Obviously, it's not going to go anywhere. So, Ms. Shannon, do you want to accept my through the clerk through me change to put transportation on May 23rd? If the answer is no, we'll just open up the debate on the motion, and we can deal with the consequences later.
Well, indeed, I can't do that in good faith without knowing that we will have the report 6. So maybe other members can put forward what I would call friendly amendments.
Okay.
So, and that can be from any member, including from the Liberal side. So
Okay. Just watch your microphone. I think it's giving us a little feedback. So, okay. All right, I had previously said, and I see hands going up, Mr. Genuis, you had signaled prior to my suspension you'd like the floor. Are you with us to take that? If not, I'll move to Mr. Genuis. Are you ready to?
Chair, I am here, but I think Mr. Nader was going to make the comments I was going to make, so happy to hand it over to him.
Very briefly, Mr. Chair. I mean, this is obviously eating into time that we could hear testimony, damning testimony, I would say, from the Canada Border Services Agency. This is really just reconfirming what was done in our subcommittee, in which you, as chair, have been directed to undertake. So I really don't see why this is being brought forward at this point, especially since we have committee business scheduled immediately following our testimony. So I would move that we adjourn the debate and hear from the witnesses on CBSA on the damning ArriveCAN report.
I cannot adjourn debate on a motion unless you're signaling you're supporting it, in which case you just want to.
Well, if everyone's ready to deal with it right now, let's go. Otherwise, I adjourn debate, and I move that we adjourn debate and hear from our witnesses.
All right. Mr. Nader has called that we adjourn debate on the motion. Please call the roll call, clerk. And so as the clerk's getting ready, this is to adjourn the debate now. We go back to the witnesses, and then we go into committee business and can pick things up again there. Clerk?
Shall the motion of Mr. Nader carry? Mr. Aria? No. Ms. Bradford?
No.
Ms. Khalid?
No.
Ms. Shanahan?
No.
Ms. Yip?
No.
Mr. Nader?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Monsieur Blanchette-Jonca?
Oh.
Ms. Blaney?
No.
Six nays, 4 yeas.
Very good. Ms. Khalid, you have the floor.
Thanks very much, Chair. I appreciate the opportunity. Look, Chair, I have been quite clear over the past number of months that I have had the honor of being part of this committee. We can do things in two ways. We can have a collaborative approach as to how we are going to run our committee, or we can have a not so collaborative approach where like we try to find gotcha moments, we try to find clips, we try to bring in matters from other committees into ours. And to be quite frank, and I really take points from Ms. Shanahan, who I learn from a lot because she's been a veteran of this committee. So that's not the role of what this committee is. Chair, you've had the opportunity to table subcommittee reports. We have a rolling work plan. And the fact that we are sitting here in our constituencies, the majority of us, trying to balance the support for our constituents while also trying to make sure that we're doing the important work in Ottawa, it's very difficult. I have constituents who I have had to cancel meetings with because I get to see your lovely face, Chair. And my constituents are annoyed by that. And I think that we have had so many opportunities to come together, to build work plans, to say, okay, committee, we are all on the same page here. We all want to work together. Here is what and how we are going to govern ourselves over the next couple of months. And you have had so many opportunities, Chair, to do that. And again and again and again, we see that things change on the fly. In fact, in our last meeting in Ottawa on Thursday, you had given indication that we would be having a committee meeting on Thursday of this week.
May I interrupt?
I am speaking to the motion, Chair.
No, you're not actually. Okay. No, you're actually not. The motion is about the schedule.
Indeed. And I will quote to you, Chair, the language of the motion. Given that the chair has yet to table a subcommittee report for the committee's approval in relation to the committee's future business, it is agreed that. So what I am talking about is, unfortunately, your failure to table subcommittee reports, to come up with a workable work plan, and to, unfortunately, preempt the committee. You had given indication that you would call a committee meeting on Thursday, and yet here we are on Tuesday for a 3-hour meeting, which I am more than happy to discuss. But Chair, we need to have a work plan, and that is what this motion is really all about. It's about creating that work plan and holding you to account, Chair, because quite frankly, every single member on this committee has the same objectives. The Public Accounts Committee has a very, very clear mandate that we are all in agreement with. And the fact that that work plan keeps changing, the fact that we get duped every single time on when committee meetings are going to happen, when they're not going to happen, what the agenda is, who the witnesses are, constant amended notices of meeting has led us to this point where we are now putting forward a motion to say, hey, Chair, if you're not going to do your job, let committee members come together and do your job
Chair.
for you.
Point of order.
I have a point of order, Mr. Khalid. Yes, Mr. Barrett.
Thank
pardon
you.
me, Mr. Nader. Pardon me.
Thank you, Chair. I would just remind Ms. Khalid that it is in our standing orders not to speak disrespectfully of the Chair. The position of Chair is a important position, and we have faith in our Chair.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Chair, I have faith in you, and I know that you can do the right thing. I am not speaking ill of you. I am just calling out what has happened over these past number of months that I have been a member of this committee to try to bring some order to this committee. And Chair, I know that you're trying to do your best. I know how difficult it is for the clerks to find witnesses, to fill in the schedules, etc. But the fact that we keep amending our meetings, the fact that we keep calling unexpected meetings, it is difficult. The meeting here today has cost taxpayers over $10,000. Can you imagine $10,000 for 3 hours in which we could have been supporting our constituents and had this in our sitting week? So what I'm trying to say to you, Chair, is that this motion is a proposition as to how we are going to conduct ourselves over the next coming weeks. And we have 5 long weeks in Ottawa where we are going to be able to do all of the work that is on your agenda, that is on all of our members' agenda. We just need some kind of decorum. We just need some kind of ability to have certainty in not only our own schedules, but in the schedules of our constituents too, so that when they schedule meetings to come and see me, for example, that I don't have to cancel on them on the last minute just so I can appear here. So, Chair, I submit that to you. I am very much in support of this motion, and I'm hopeful that members of our committee are also, because what this motion does is that it gives us clarity, it gives us concrete work plan, which we have been waiting for a very, very long time, for months in fact, and a work plan that keeps changing and keeps fidgeting around with. And here we are in a surprise meeting on Tuesday. I don't know why we are doing this, but I'm hopeful that this motion brings concreteness and stability to our committee. And again, Chair, I respect the work that you do, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. And I'm hoping in a more collaborative way than we have so far. And I'll leave my remarks there, Chair, and I look forward to continuing with this debate.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Yip.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This motion was brought about because we want some certainty about a work plan. And as my colleague, Ms. Khalid, has brought up, we never know what the plan is. The emails keep coming from the clerk, amend, and so forth. And so there's so many changes. It's just we would all like to have everybody agree on a work plan that works for everyone. So I would really like to also remind the chair that we still have some outstanding reports to look at. I think it's about 6 or 7, and some of them date back to 2022, and I really think that we do need to get back to it. But that being said, I'd like to propose a friendly amendment that that we dedicate the meeting for May 23rd to witness testimony from officials on the report for National Trade Quarters Fund, Transport Canada, and June 11th to the environmental report. Sorry, I just need a moment to get the right wording of that. It's Report 6, Canadian Net Zero Emissions Accountability Act.
All right, I'll just see if the clerk, is that clear?
She said a friendly amendment.
Yes.
Is she actually moving an amendment?
Yes. I took it you're moving an amendment to Ms. Shanahan's motion that we will study report 4, trade corridors, on May 23rd. And we will study report 6, Canadian net zero emissions, on June the 11th.
That's correct.
Discussion on that, or should we call a vote?
Let's call.
I'll accept it as a friendly amendment.
Looking then for discussion or UC on that. Hearing no opposition, that is passed. Back to the discussion. Ms. Shanahan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I appreciate the friendly amendment brought forward by my colleague, because indeed it's the kind of accommodation that we can normally expect in this committee, where members discuss either in the subcommittee or in committee business, and usually in camera, what the work plan is going to be going forward, so that there's some clarity and certainty in the work that we have to do, because we all take it very seriously, and we want to be prepared. And Chair, I have to say that last Thursday we had committee business in public for an hour, where we discussed at great length a Thursday meeting that we would be having this week, without any clarity as to who the witnesses that were going to be called. And in fact, members on the Liberal side found out that other members had prior knowledge, and on the Conservative side had prior knowledge about whether or not witnesses would be able to attend, and that was shown by a motion.
Ms. Shanahan, I'm going to first of all, Ms. Shanahan, that was put to bed. Second, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You appeared to have advanced knowledge of Mr. Haiju's availability in a few weeks that I'm aware of and the clerk's aware of, but no other members are aware of. So back to you. Let's not go down that road. Please speak to your motions and save your skullduggery.
Indeed, Chair, and I hope that you're not impugning any motions, any motives.
You were the one doing that, Ms. Shanahan. Back to you.
Well, Chair, again, this is why we have these discussions normally in a in-camera meeting where members can speak freely, share information, and so on. But for some reason, well, not for just some reason, because of really weeks and months of, frankly, some members not being able to have full access to all information that was made available to other members, for multiple changes to a work plan, the work plan not being sent out on a timely basis, a subcommittee report not being submitted to the committee for approval, and so then being subject to change after the subcommittee has spent considerable time working on it. And so this is why I am presenting not only this motion, but I'm very happy to receive the friendly amendment that has been put forward today. And I'm looking forward to some very constructive work by this committee in the weeks to come. And I will leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Arya, you have the floor, please.
Just a short comment, Chair. I'm not a regular member of this committee, but I was in this committee during 2015-2019 when I was first elected with Conservative Kevin Sorensen as the chair, and we had NDP member David Christopherson, who was a very active member of the committee. I fondly recall those 4 years when the committee worked very well. In fact, the entire 4 years, there was not a single dissenting report from any of us. We had the majority then. And I should say, it appears the things have changed now. That's all I wanted to say. Another thing, Chair, in fact, before our committee in 2015, the departments used to send different levels of officers to the committee, but we put our foot down and insisted that the deputy ministers themselves be available for every single meeting. And we enforced it, though it was our government, at our insistence on the Liberal side, that we made sure that the deputy ministers appeared on behalf of the department. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bradford, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to speak in favor of the motion and as amended with a friendly amendment. You know, as a new MP, I know that we have two roles. One is our parliamentary duties, which take place here in Ottawa, and the other, equally important, if not more so, is our duty to our constituents back home. And this time of year, we have very few weeks dedicated to that. In fact, this is our final week here in the constituency until the House rises on June 21st. So consequently, we have a lot of meetings booked here, often quite a bit in advance. The schedule is very jammed. So I reiterate the comments made previously by Ms. Khalid and Ms. Shanahan. You know, we get these things booked, and then all of a sudden they're upended and we have to cancel on our constituents. It sends a very poor message. So this week, I mean, with ArriveCAN, we've had, I don't know, I've lost track, probably 17 meetings on this. And I think half of them have happened during constituency weeks, which should not happen. And now we're to the point where we're recalling witnesses we've previously heard from, and they don't really have anything new to add. Last Thursday, you said that we were going to have a meeting on Thursday. So I had to, you know, get coverage, which was difficult.
Miss Bradford, this is not about the motion. This is about not wanting to sit in recess week. Back to you.
I'm sorry, Chair. It's about the need for the motion. And I'm sorry this motion is necessary, but it's become quite evident over the past, couple of months that with these unexpected meetings that happen during constituent weeks, we need a program. We need a plan so that we can be prepared. We need to know who the witnesses are, when they're coming, so that we can prepare, so that we have some good, valid, relevant questions. That's what we're trying to accomplish here, Mr. Chair. And so I think that this plan, and we need to stick to it. We need, by passing this motion, to say, this is our work plan, and we won't be altering it. The witnesses will be lined up, and we won't be having any extra things added on that are going to disrupt this work program, because we have, reports that we need to table and get done so that we look like we're effectively conducting the work that we're elected to do. And we need to get on with it. And our wish is that this brings some structure and clarity that I feel has been missing with all these additional things that have disrupted and pushed our reports back so we don't get things tabled in the House. And it's just so that we have some structure and advanced knowledge of what's coming up, who the witnesses will be, and so that we can proceed on an ongoing basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Khalid.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I just want to add on to what my colleagues have said, but also to kind of expand on all of the points that this motion outlines. So, when we talk about kind of a spring cleaning, there's a lot that's on the plate of the Public Accounts Committee's agenda. There's a lot that has been pending, and I know that our last meeting was in camera, so I can't go into details about specifically what was edited or discussed in reports, but I do recall just being alarmed at having to change dates, given how much reports have been delayed and pushed back because of calling and recalling and recalling and recalling the same witnesses again and again and again. So I think point one is very, very necessary, that we definitely need to have a spring cleaning of what is on our agenda and how we are going to conduct ourselves going forward. I think having that conversation is going to really clear up and hopefully prioritize and triage kind of what is on our plate and what we need to get done as soon as possible. For point two, the dedicated meeting for May 23rd from officials on Report 6, the Canadian Net Zero Emissions Accountability Act 2030 Emissions Reduction Plan. I think that's something that Canadians are really wanting to hear about and hear from. That report is a significant one in terms of the climate today. We are about to go into a significant fire season where we are going to see a lot of forest fires over the summer. We are going to have multiple conversations about what climate change means to all of us, and how we as a government and how we as specifically as Public Accounts Committee is going to ensure that we are holding government to account in terms of what the action plan is with the net zero emissions. And I think that this report is very important for us to get on the radar and tabled in the House, and we do need to discuss it as a committee. So again, a very, very important thing to be included in this motion. The third point is consideration of draft reports. As I had alluded to earlier, Chair, there is so many reports that we just have not gotten to, that we should be getting to. In fact, we've had to amend some of these reports based on the delay. And I think that it is so important for us to get these draft reports tabled, because the work of the Auditor General is important. The work of this committee is important. And if we are just holding on to all of these reports, then how are we going to further the work that we're trying to do? How are we going to further the recommendations that we are proposing based on the Auditor General, based on what we've heard in this committee? I think sitting on them is doing a disservice to our committee and to Canadians as well. So I really think that's an important part of this motion as well. And as chair, you've indicated that the Arrive Can is very, very important. This motion also speaks to that, to say that the May 30th meeting be dedicated to witness testimony on Report 1 on Arrive Can. Because we do care, Chair, about what you think, about what all members of this committee think, and what impacts and what is important to Canadians. And so including this as part of the report, as part of the plan, the work plan for the next couple of months, I think is very important. Because I, for one, and I've said this on the record so many times, I'm so disappointed with how ArriveCAN happened. I can't believe how much money we spent on this. And I think it is important for us to put out that final report on what exactly happened here and how we are going to reconcile the 13 years, Chair, of a government who, of multiple governments who have had challenges with contracting. And I think ArriveCAN is a good example of how we can do that. We've also, on the First Nation, the housing issue with First Nations, I know Mr. Desjardins has been very, very vigilant on and ensuring that we speak about this. And I know that our government has had a lot of interventions on this as well, and a lot of work. And I think that's another really, really good thing for us to talk about. And ensure that this is triaged and prioritized in what we do from today until we rise end of June. So I, again, really think this is important. And again, like with the two ministers, Minister Blair and Minister Haidu, they do need to appear because that is the will of the committee. We've passed motions accordingly. We have talked about this and collaborated this. And so it is difficult, as members have said, to get the agenda of and the time from ministers. So if we have those times confirmed, I think it would be really helpful for us to be able to schedule that in and to make sure that that we are getting them on the record for a lot of the issues that we have been discussing in this committee. So, Chair, I've talked point by point on all of the issues that have been raised in this motion, and I'm really hopeful that you yourself and all members of this committee can support this work plan because, quite frankly, we have yet to see a workable work plan or any work plan, to be quite frank, over the past couple of months. So we're just trying to propose something that would be helpful, that would help guide this committee and give some kind of order and prioritization and triaging to how this committee operates. So I'll stop there, Chair, and I look forward to a positive vote on this. Thanks.
Thank you. Clerk, call the roll call, please.
Shall the motion of Ms. Shanahan, as amended, be adopted? Ms. Bradford?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Mr. Aria? Yes. Ms. Khalid?
Yes.
Ms. Shanahan? Or is it Ms. Sidhu?
Yes.
Ms. Yip?
Yes.
Mr. Nader?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Monsieur Blanchette-Jonca?
Cool.
Ms. Blaney?
Yes.
10 yeas.
Thank you all for ratifying with a slight amendment the work plan that had been sent to you all. Going back to our witnesses, Mr. Brock, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. O'Gorman, you appeared at OGO, this OGO committee, on October 24th, 2023. You informed this committee before your appearance at that meeting, you visited the PCO at 80 Wellington at 2 p.m. You then attended the OGO committee at 3:30 p.m. and the next morning visited 80 Wellington again, the PCO's office. This is all pursuant to your calendar. Did you meet with PMO officials?
No.
Did you meet with PCO officials?
I don't know the specific meeting that you're talking about, but if I was at PCO, I would have
Ma'am,
been...
I just repeated the meetings that you attended. October 24th, 1 hour before your committee appearance, and the following your committee appearance on the 25th. So I'll ask again, did you meet with PMO officials on both of those dates?
I would have to review my calendar. I don't recall meeting in person with PMO officials. for any meetings, but this is more than 6 months ago. So I guess if Mr. Chair, if there's a specific question that the member wants to know, pointing out dates of meetings 6 months ago,
Ma'am,
I'm hard
this
pressed
is
to.
important. This is an important question, and we want an answer to it. Who at the PMO and the PCO office did you meet with before and after your appearance at the OGO committee?
I would have to review my calendar. I don't have it in front of me.
And you'll provide this committee with all of those names in the PMO office that you met with and the PCO office you met with.
So, Mr. Chair, the member is stating as a fact that I met with PMO. I have not agreed to any facts, so please let that be clear.
I stopped the clock, Mr. Brock. So just there's a request for information. I believe Ms. O'Gorman said she would check her schedule. I just wanted to clarify that. I just want to double check. I don't want to put words in your mouth. So
the member has my schedule. So if the people aren't listed, I can see if I can go in and find that, but I will take that back.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brock, you have 2 minutes, 50 seconds. Back to you.
Ms. O'Gorman, did you talk about the ArriveCAN issue?
As I said, I don't recall those meetings. I don't have the information in front of me. I have spoken to PCO.
I'll stop you right there. Ms. O'Gorman, it is really funny that now, some several months removed, you have great difficulty remembering your attendance at the PCO and PMO's office. Yet when the question was put to you by myself at an earlier appearance, you remembered exactly attending, and you told us at that time that it was a mere coincidence that you were attending before your committee appearance. And I'm now telling you that this is what you had said previously. So it's very coincidental, ma'am, that you can't remember now. So clearly this was about your appearance at committee, and it was clearly about the ArriveCAN study. Do you dispute that?
I do. I absolutely dispute that. Your question was not, did you meet with the Privy Council office or the Prime Minister's office before your appearance to discuss your appearance? Had that been the question, I would have said no. I have never met with PMO with regards to any of my, no, Mr. Chair, may I finish my, may I finish?
Mr. Gorman, this is my time. This is my
Oh,
time.
I believe there was a statement that was erroneous that I'm fixing. If the question was, did I meet with the Prime Minister's office?
Order. I think, Ms. Yip, I think I'm going to, why don't you, Ms. you have a point of order, which I think I'm going to preempt, but go ahead. I see your hand up. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, my point of order is the witness should be allowed to answer, and also that 80 Wellington is the PCO, not PMO.
Thank you. So, I just want to bring a little order. So, Ms. O'Gorman, well, no, hold on. I'm going to turn it back to Mr. Brock. This is his time, and in this process with other questioning, if something you feel you haven't been able to answer, another member can certainly turn to you. But unfortunately, all members are on the clock, and they have discretion about how they would like to use that time. I know that can be frustrating, but I just want to clarify that. So, Mr. Brock, you have about a minute and a half. Over to you, please.
So, Ms. O'Gorman, you are going to table all the names of all officials at the PMO office and the PCO office that you spoke to before and immediately after your committee meetings on this ArriveCAN study. You are also going to give us details as to what you discussed, because I know there's an email from October of 2022 that the PCO was very interested in the ArriveCAN study. You were CC'd, and actually an email directed to you regarding that. So you wanted to provide information to the PCO on the ArriveCAN study. I find it extremely suspicious, and I'm sure Canadians do not believe you, ma'am, when you say that it was merely a coincidence. Before and after your meeting with the PCO, you did not discuss your testimony, and you did not discuss the ArriveCAN. So we'll wait for your information to be received. Now, the RCMP is investigating thousands of emails deleted by Min Doan, a former employee of the CBSA. Have you been able to recover some of those emails, yes or no?
The team is investigating the allegation. I don't think it's
And
been
ma'am,
established
have
that,
you
Mr. Chair,
recovered some of those emails? Yes or no?
I don't believe it's been established that the emails were deleted.
Have you recovered some of those emails that were not provided to the RCMP or the Auditor General? Have you since found and be able to recover some of those emails?
I have not understood from neither the Auditor General nor the RCMP that they were not provided with emails that they were seeking.
Ma'am, there is evidence.
No,
there is
sorry, Mr.
evidence-
I'll hear that point of order in a second. Mr. Brock, your time is up. I heard a point of order. Is that Ms. Khalid? Yes,
and that's
pardon me.
exactly the point. Mr. Brock was way over his time.
Wait. Mr. Arya, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. O'Gorman, in your testimony, you mentioned that the approval, or you mentioned about the contracts for over $40,000 need. Is there new procedure you mentioned?
Yes, I've established governance that any contract at CBSA that is being renewed, extended, or established goes through a committee that's chaired by the executive deputy head.
The concerns that has been raised due to this ArriveCan scandal, sometimes adding red tape, it makes life difficult for various departments to work. Sometimes in an emergency, 40,000 is a big number, I understand. But in the bigger scheme of the things, sometimes works need to be get done quickly, sooner. So are you adding more red tape to the approval process?
I don't see it as red tape. I see it as visibility across the organization. The committee can meet quickly if there's a need, but I think what I'm trying to institute at CBSA is that these things don't come up at the last minute. And so if everything is in order, it's a short discussion and people proceed.
You mentioned that you are trying to reduce the consulting footprint. That's important. I agree with that because over-reliance on consultants is not a good thing in the longer run. And you also mentioned that you need the transfer the knowledge to the internal team. In fact, every time a consultant is heard, a part of that should be where the knowledge of this external contractor will goes into the internal team so that the expertise will become available in-house as and when needed. Obviously, it has not been happening for too long a time. Is it an informal way that you are instituting it, or is there a formal way of doing this?
So I'll just, Mr. Chair, the previous question on the number of contracts. So in February of this year, we had 243 IT consultants working in CBSA, and as of May, we have 175. So I had undertook to get those numbers. But we are making a concerted effort to do a knowledge transfer and have a plan for all of the work that we are doing by virtue of having consultants there and what the long-term plan is. We will always have consultants. It wouldn't be economical or feasible to hire across the agency all of the depth of IT talent we need. Some people we need to come in quickly. Like I said, we have people who know computer languages that don't really want to work for government. They're retired. We need their expertise. So again, there too, we're looking in quite a concerted way to be able to do a knowledge transfer and do that work ourselves.
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting. I'll have the clerk to call the roll call on that, please.
Shall the motion of Mr. Arya be adopted? Ms. Bradford?
Yes.
Mr. Arya? Yes. Ms. Khalid?
Yes.
Ms. Shanahan? Ms. Sidhu, sorry.
Yes.
Ms. Yip?
Yes.
Mr. Nader?
No.
Mr. Barrett?
After the Liberal filibuster to block testimony, no.
Mr. Brock?
Absolutely no. Canadians want answers.
Just, gentlemen, just a yes or no answer will suffice, yea or nay.
Monsieur Blanchette-Jonca? Ms. Blaney?
Yes.
6 yeas, 4 nays.
Thank you for your appearance today, your extended appearance. This meeting is adjourned. We'll see you back here Thursday.